Good morning. Happy Friday. I hope you're having a great day. Maybe you're watching this on a day besides Friday. I'm not sure. But our normal class day is Friday, so I'm saying happy Friday. I hope you're looking forward to the weekend. And maybe you have some fun plans of something to do. I'll probably be doing yard work and maybe a bike ride. Anyway, we have another art project today. Today our project is called Birch Forest. I'm going to teach you how to paint a watercolor painting of a birch tree forest or a grove of birch trees. So what you need for today is you need some watercolor paints. Hopefully you have them. Or any kind of paint if you don't have watercolor paints. You will need some masking tape or blue painter's tape. If you have really thick tape, that's okay because you can tear it or cut it apart. You're going to need some paper, drawing paper, watercolor paper would be great, but if you only have copy paper or printer paper, then that'll work too. So go ahead and gather those things together while I change up the camera, and I'll see you back here in just a second. Okay, welcome back. The first thing that we're going to need to do is position your paper in the tall or portrait position. A lot of times when we're doing paintings of a landscape like a grove of trees, we would have it this way, but because birch trees are so tall and we want to get the whole height in, we're going to do it in the tall or portrait position. So please go ahead and get your paper that way. You do not need to draw anything yet. You probably won't need to draw anything at all in this one, so trust me on that. Okay, let's grab your tape. I would like you to tear off lengths of tape that are as long as your paper. So I'm going to do a few ahead of time and just have them setting off here to the side. When you're doing any kind of drawing or painting, things look better in odd numbers. So for example, if you were painting a vase filled with flowers, it would be good to have 3, 5, 7, 9. If you're doing objects in a still life, maybe like, I don't know, a vase or a cup or something like that, it's nice to have at least 3 objects. When you have 2, sometimes you just have competition between the 2 different objects on either side. But once you start having 3, the items sort of go better together. So I am making a grove with 7 trees in it. So I have 4 pieces of tape over here and 3 pieces over here. I know you can't see them all. Okay, also, as you start to lay out your design here, it is best to not have something right in the middle. So how about if your first tree is maybe a little bit offset, okay? So that way we're not right in the middle. All right, I'm going to start up here at the top and just sticking the tape on. And this first one I'll just do easy. I'll just do a piece of tape going down the middle. I want you to make sure to press it on there really nicely so that you get good contact between the paper and your paint. The reason why is because when we start painting our watercolors over this, we don't want any watercolor paint to leak under or sink underneath that tape, so you need good contact. Okay, let's do the next one. It would be boring if all of these were straight up and down and evenly spaced. So how about if we do this one a little differently? I'm going to start it at the bottom and I'm going to give it a little tip. Okay, so as you can see, it's already starting to lean towards that other one. But then, just to change things up, I'm going to kind of crimp or bend my tape a little bit right here. And, whoops, and give it a little bit of a crooked right there. Okay, again, making sure that you have really good contact. This tape right here accidentally was too short and it doesn't go all the way off the edge of the page, so I'm just going to simply tear off another piece and let that extend upwards so that it carries all the way off the edge of the page. Okay, let's get another piece. Continue building over this way. How about if this one leans a little bit away from the edge of the paper And we have a nice kind of a different distance between the trees. So I'm keeping that in mind. And I gave this one a little bend up at the top too. So the bend just happens because I get a little wrinkle in the tape on purpose, and I want it to be bent. Now, before we go any farther, not all birch trees are exactly the same thickness, right? So I am going to do something to this guy over here that's separate, and I'm going to thicken him up by putting another piece of tape kind of overlapping. So he's a little bit thicker. It's funny, every time I paint anything or draw anything and I start talking about it, I always end up saying he, like it's a boy. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a girl, but anyway, so he is a little bit thicker. Okay, if this bugs you right here, you can extend it so that it's thicker all the way up towards the top by just getting another piece and adding it on there. Let's go like this. Just giving it some irregularity so that not everything is exactly the same. Okay, all right. Next, so we have 3, we need 4 more because we're staying with our odd numbers. Let's have someone over here. Again, slightly different distances between everybody. So I'm just going to put that on straight for now. And now this one's going to be a little tricky. How do I want to do this? What would be the easiest way for you? How about if we had a little scissor going, and I'm going to cut this guy thinner, and my cut might not be perfectly straight as though I had used a ruler for it. And that's okay, because again, in nature, we don't always, well, we really don't ever have that kind of perfection happening. So here's another one. And let's put this one way over here maybe and give it a little bit of a crookedness by moving. See how it's like a little crooked? And now I've got this guy that I cut off from the other one. Wouldn't that be fun if we had somebody behind it here like this? So maybe it's a farther away tree. So I'm going to start it up a little bit farther on the page. It doesn't come all the way to the bottom because this one's going to be off in the distance a little bit. So I don't know if you can see, but it doesn't come all the way to the bottom of the page. Okay? All right. So now what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I made a skinny guy and I kind of like that skinny guy, so I'm going to do another one, but slightly different thickness. I didn't cut these ahead of time because sometimes as you're going along in the painting, you find out you need something that maybe you didn't realize you needed at the beginning. And I want that to be over here. We'll do another one that's set up a little higher on the page and a little tip to it. Okay, so these 2 guys are farther in the background. And if you notice when you're looking at photographs or in real life, when things are farther away, they tend to look smaller and skinnier. So that's really going to help us out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, if I do this, this will be 8. And remember I said we want to have an odd number, so I'm going to stick him over here on this side, again starting farther up, and I have 1 left. So that I was originally going to have 7, but now I'm going to have 9, and I have quite a lot of trees on here. So I want to make another skinny guy. I don't really have room for another thick one. Okay, another skinny guy. This is sort of ending up right in the middle. I don't like that. So I'm going to put this one really close next to it, starting up higher. So it's in the distance, and I'm going to tip it, and I'm going to actually have it kind of look like it disappears behind that tree. So it's crossing over, and this guy's crossing in the front. Okay, now, if you want to get fancy, and you have any scraps of tape left over, you can do things like you can add, excuse me, a branch here and there. I think the branches would be even skinnier than this because birch trees usually have really skinny branches. So you may find yourself doing a lot of extra cutting. If you don't want to do this part, this is optional because you can actually do this with paint later on. So I'm gonna start a branch here, and then I'm gonna kind of give it a bend like that and let it overlap. Okay, so it's got sort of a crookedness. Really making sure to have good connection with that. Let's have something here on this guy. We'll start it up a little higher and then giving it a little bend in there. Can you see the forest starting to take shape here? Okay, I'm going to just cut up this last piece of tape into some other skinnies. I've been doing a lot of bike riding lately, and I'm not really a cyclist, but all of a sudden I have gotten a new interest in it, and actually I'm so proud of myself, so I'm going to share that with you. I rode 101 miles last week, and I thought, are you kidding me? I never would have imagined doing something like that. So I guess now that we have all this change in the world, it's making a change in me. It was fun. Okay, I didn't ride all at once. That was across the whole week, so about 20 miles a day. Okay, so look at this guy's crossing way over there, and maybe I feel like I need something right here. When you're adding your branches, pay attention to where the height of them. We don't want everything, like if everything always started right here, that'd be weird. So I'll put that one up a little bit higher. I'm going to let it cross way over here like that. And I have one last piece, so how about if I use some of it here, like that, and then I'm going to use the rest maybe right here. Okay, that can come over and cross over like this. Okay, so when you're all done, make sure all your tape is really pressed down there because you don't want your watercolor to leak underneath. I don't really like this one. I don't know if you can tell, but it has these sort of jagged edges. So I'm just going to use my fingernail to sort of soften and smooth those out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good, odd number. Okay, now let me get my paints out. This is my paint set. I can't remember if I showed this to you before in another video, but these are my paints. I do a lot of acrylic and watercolor painting, so I have this really big set, and I'm going to use this larger brush. Okay, so now this is kind of the fun part, and I'm going to actually, after I do this, I'll have to pause the video to let this dry and come back to you with another segment. Okay, so the background, we will have maybe some blue sky showing, so I want to get some beautiful lighter blue paint, and I'm going to start that probably right about in here across the middle. And I'm not having this be really dark. I'm just going right across the middle, and then I'm going to have some ground down below and some leaves up above, so I'm just going to add this in here like that. Okay, while it's still wet, let me get some leafy color. So I'm going to bring some green in right in here, making it irregular, not a straight line straight across. Let's have some of it come down into the blue and some of it is up higher, because you don't see leaves just going straight across when you're looking at trees. They're up and down, and they're kind of puffy, and they're all different colors. So how about I get a different green now? You want to do this before everything dries, because then it has a chance to really blend together in a beautiful way, and the paint merges. Okay, so here's some of that. Let's do a little, maybe a couple dark greens down in there. And now up at the top, I'll get one more different color of green. I think this is probably going to be sort of a springtime I don't really like that green. I'm going to get a different green. It's going to be kind of a springtime forest. Get this dark green up in there. And again, so that I don't just have stripes or bands of the same color, after I do this dark green, I like to put some in sort of in other places too, just little spots. I'm not really working it around too much because I'm going to let the paint move itself and blend itself. Alright, now before everything dries, let's get down here to the bottom on the ground. You could have a brown earth, but I don't want that. I'm going to put a little purple down here. And that light blue that I put down first is still wet, so that purple will blend in nicely, and it's really pretty. And now, maybe I'll get some brown for the ground. I just think that it's more exciting when you have other colors happening. And brown and purple, whether you would imagine this or believe it or not, they actually blend together really nicely, and it looks like a nice neutral color. Remember, the neutral colors are like gray, tan, brown, black. Okay, when you have it all painted, this is where you can have a little bit of fun. Don't go crazy, but I have some brown on here, and if I tap, can you see I'm just tapping on my brush with a lot of really soupy paint, and it models, or it kind of adds like some, not polka dots, not spots, but texture. And this is all wet, remember, so it's going to blend together. So I did that down here, and we didn't have any yellow at all, so how about if I add a little bit of yellow so that we can have some sunlight in these trees. So here's my brush again with a lot of yellow paint on it, and I'm just kind of, whoops, getting it on my camera here, tapping it around in here. So little bits of yellow. Okay, now we're going to pause the video here and let this dry, and I will come back to you and show you what it looks like. All right, welcome back. I have left my birch tree painting outside in the sun for a little while, and now that I come back to it, it's completely dry. And again, it has to be completely dry before you take all the tapes off. If you take them off too soon while it's wet, then all that wet paint was actually going to seep over into the trees, and that's not what you want. So I'm going to take off the the tape really carefully. You have to be careful and go slowly so that you don't rip your paper. So I'm going to stop talking and take the tape off and actually speed up my video so you don't have to watch me for hours and hours removing this tape. Okay, great. We got rid of all the tape. Lucky I did not rip the paper at all. Now, let's talk about what we have left over here. We have this beautiful background color, and we have these super white birch trees. In real life, they are not so super white as this, so we kind of have to dirty them up a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I'll be using two brushes. I'm going to use mostly this one, which is a little bit of a skinny brush, and then sometimes I might use this really, really super skinny brush. Can you even see? There's hardly any hairs on it. This is a different kind of a watercolor brush called a rigger, so I might use that one every once in a while. Okay, so let's start with the ground down here. Now the trees would not just abruptly stop at the ground, so using a mixture of the paint colors that I already had, which were purple and brown, I'm going to go down here and kind of plant the trees a little bit, and this is what I mean. I'm going to take this brown paint. Let's zoom in a little bit first so you can see better. And whoops, let's move this. There we go. Okay, I'm going to take this paint and I'm going to kind of create like a little bit of I don't know, foreground or something in there. So it's a little bit of a dark area that overlaps the tree. Maybe it has a feeling of some weeds or stuff growing down here. Let's carry this over across. So you're just kind of adding some stuff down at the bottoms of the trees to make it look like they are part of the ground and not just all of a sudden abruptly stopping there. So I'm kind of going onto the trunks a little bit here and there and kind of carrying that over. And then these three guys right here, they come off the page, so they're actually even closer to us. So we can leave them like that, or we can give them, I think I'm going to plant them, so I'm going to put some of this color over their bases, but just a little bit closer towards the edge here. So then you'll really get the feeling that these trees are nearer and the other guys are farther away. When I rinse my brush out with just clear water, I can just come in and kind of blend this a little bit. There's no paint on my brush right now, it's just clear water, and every once in a while I rinse it again and I just move this paint around a little bit. Maybe let it go up the tree, move that. Okay, so now we have basically these trees in the foreground and in the background. I did that all with a kind of a purple. Maybe I'll add a little bit of brown paint in there too, here and there. Okay, just a little bit. All right, so now we have the foreground. Now let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so already that's looking a little bit better. Now, the trees, we need to work on these. Birch trees a lot of times have these knot holes where branches used to be attached. So here and there on the trees, I may do a little something like make some lines and make kind of like a hole. The birch trees have a lot of these lines going across. Okay, like that. Did you see how I rounded them a little bit and I didn't just go straight across like this, like a ruler? I rounded them just a little bit to give the tree the sense of being rounded. Okay, so I'm coming from the edge of the tree and bringing some across like that here and there. All right, so I'm going to stop talking again for a minute and do this here and there on the trees. But before I stop talking, let's look at this branch right here. It's coming from a tree that's in the front, so I'm going to have it cross in front of these. So how that would happen is like this. I'm almost drawing a little outline like this. If my brush skips a little bit, that's okay. There. Okay, so now it gives us the feeling that that is coming across the fronts. All right, so now time for me to stop talking and keep on working here. Okay, when you get to about this place, you can take a step back. It's always good to take a step back from your work and just look at it a little bit. You might see some spots like right here. Maybe I missed how this branch goes behind, so I have to separate that. I have a little purple on my brush now because I think it's fun to add, like I was telling you how purple and brown mix nicely together. And purple almost gives a feeling of a shadow. So we can have some purple here and there. Make sure that you put that around in more than just one spot so that it looks like you did it on purpose and not like you just accidentally got purple somewhere. The underside of the branches would be more in shadow, so I can run a little bit of purple or brown along the lower sections of the branches, like this one right here. We can put some purple under there, maybe, like that. So it looks like it's in shadow. Okay. All right, now, the other thing that we want to take care of is some of this greenery that's in the background. It really does need to cross over the fronts of the trees, and it will make everything look much more realistic, as though the trees are standing in. I mean, the leaves are coming down on them. They're not just kind of standing out in front. So I'm going to take some of those colors again on my big brush, and this time I'm going to have a lot of paint and a lot of water. It's really dripping. And then carefully I'm tapping my brush and just getting some little splatters. You want to be careful what's around you so you're not splashing all over the furniture if you're in the house. You can also just touch your brush. I'm not really painting. I'm not wiping my brush around. I'm tapping it or placing it down on top of these branches here and there, making some of my splotches bigger than others so that it doesn't look all polka dotty and even. We want it to look like it's random. Okay, so already it's starting to look like the branches are supposed to be there. I mean, the trees are supposed to be there and they're part of the forest. I have a little bit of a darker green now. I'm going to block my camera because last time I splashed on my camera. Okay, and now finally, how about a little yellow so that the sunlight is coming through here and there. Not too much because it'll be kind of crazy if you get a little too much. And one last thing down here at the bottom, maybe a few of the leaves have landed on the ground. So we don't want it to seem like it's just nothing down here. So let's just do a little bit. I'm holding my hand as a shield so that I don't splash too much. Okay, so I have some spots. Let me zoom in for you and move this so you can see the bottom. Now, oops, focus. Okay, so see those spots? With my brush with just some clear water, I can come down here and just touch them a little bit. And now they're going to blend. I can't tip too much because my paint at the top is going to run. Alright, now let's show you the whole entire painting. Okay, there we go. Alright, just take a look at it. I did get a big drip right here, so if that happens to you, just fix it by kind of moving it, tapping it a little bit. Okay. Don't mess with watercolor too much. It's nice to just let it do its thing. So we have the tendency to want to fix it and make it better. But if we mess with it for too much, it doesn't look as good. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and be done. You have now created a birch tree forest. Nice job. It looks beautiful. Well, yours, I'm sure, looks beautiful. I want you to send me pictures so that I can give you compliments because I'm sure you will do a great job. And I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.